Underhells Campaign. Game 9. Spire Hunters Tek Reapers vs Delaque Will of the Old One. Mission: Zone Exploration. In the final game of the first cycle, and first phase, we will have gangs fighting for a lost archaeotech in an abandoned hab zone. Delaques, who are still undefeated, will try to stop the momentum of the Spyrers, fresh from a close win against the Enforcers. Mission for today is an Ash Wastes mission zone exploration. With a small crew size, it favors the already compact elite gang of Tek Reapers. Before choosing the deployment zone, players place 6 archaeotech markers on the board. The markers stay on the map for the whole game and require an intelligence check and a basic action to gain a point for their gang. If a gang voluntarily flees, the opponent is the winner. Otherwise, we count the number of archaeotech points collected. Shifting dunes for Ash Wastes conditions means again that models need to move during their activation when on battlefield surface. Otherwise, they lose a wound or 1 hull point. The only change in Spyrers lineup since the last game was getting a couple of advancements. Huntmaster Sir Fox, as well as Jakara Theodore, upgraded their toughness to 4. Poor performance from Sulan made him unable to do the same, with only a few experience points gained. Delaque managed to spend some credits after the game versus Gene Stealer cults. Cypher got a shotgun with solid and scatter ammo, while Xenorth upgraded his long rifle with an infrasight. Besides that, few fighters upgraded their armor. Some gangers got mesh while both champions obtained armored undersuits. First big play of the game was already in the deployment step. Spyrers played hidden in the Ash tactic and rolled 3. So all Spyrers will be deployed using the infiltration rules. Fortunately, Delaque spies informed the gang beforehand, and this allowed them to approach deployment and plan for the game accordingly. Initially, their custom rig was supposed to be deployed further away in one of the alley roads, with just a couple of fighters supporting it. The threat of 3 infiltrating Spyrers was too much, and Delaques decided that the vehicle will deploy next to the rest of the gang. In addition, fighters were carefully placed to not leave any blind spots in the rear, where Spyrers could be placed. This meant, however, that some fighters, especially those deployed near the ruins, would have to trudge through the difficult terrain of the battlefield surface. Spyrers took advantage of the cagey deployment displayed by the enemy and decided to play for the mission. Hunters in Jakara and Oris rigs deployed in the middle of the board, ready to harvest points from 2 objectives located there. Similarly, Sir Fox deployed next to a crate, but he was almost near the board edge, far from any enemies. Abyssal Ferryman were also split. Custom rig with melee rig hand was deployed in the area around Huntmaster Leader, while Shooty Skipper was covering the other flank. Initial activations of the first turn were focused mostly on opening crates for the mission and getting closer to the enemy to reach visibility range in the next turn. Due to infiltration, the score at the beginning was heavily in Spyrers' favor. Delaque custom rig brought 2 fighters, Psygeist Hypnose and rig hand with combat shotgun, to one of the objectives. Tek Reapers rig also advanced and deployed their ferryman next to one of the crates. 2 Spyrers in the middle shuffled around, scoring the mission and trying to advance towards the gang structure. Seeing exposed Oris counterpart, the leader of Delaques used his second action to also get out of his cover and have a shooting line on the enemy. 2 damage from his bolt launchers went through and Tremor went down on the ground pinned. Jakara, hidden behind the nearby crate, was prepared to eventually counterattack anybody that approached wounded Oris. The other fighters from Delaques also advanced forward, since all the objectives were placed in the middle part of the board. Sniper Specialist considered heavily if he should try aiming at the enemy skipper, but decided against it, not risking hitting his comrades with stray shots. He approached next to the tower, leaving him the option to climb on top of it in the next turn or help with the scoring mission points with a nearby loot crate. In the second turn, seeing how important the first few activations will be with already deployed fighters, Nactgull decided to stay hidden and not appear on the board yet. Instead, Cosm tried to continue his success, this time aiming at prone Oris. This time, however, his shots did do only a single point of damage, but only a flesh wound was rolled. To help with containing the enemy in that corner, Delaque's custom rig advanced forward and tried shooting at Jakara in the back. His evade skill, combined with a long-range modifier due to Ash Wastes, made the shot almost impossible to hit. The only result was that the vehicle made itself visible for return fire. At least it was blocking line of sight for the small rattling ferryman in the ruined building. Similar play was on the side of Spyrers. After Sullivan got up and hid behind the cover, their rig drove to block the pathway between two Horus fighters. Meanwhile, Jakara continued to shuffle behind the Munitorum crates and continued to score mission points on the nearby casket. Left flank of Delaques started to spread out. Hypnos moved towards plasma power relays and pinned Theodore with his spatial psychosis. Xenorth chose not to waste time in climbing the guard tower and moved towards the objective. Rig Hand, after the loot attempt, jumped over the crates to position himself closer to the friendly vehicle. The other ferryman, still on the backside of the rig, shot and wounded his counterpart behind the ruined building. Delaques in the middle of the board continued forward. Cypher even got into range of Leader Fox, aiming at him with a solid round from his shotgun, but missed. Meanwhile, the Huntmaster continued to score points. Sullivan, afraid to move back towards the firefight and risk being finished off too quickly, decided to take his chances and fire a very improbable shot at the vehicle. Even although sixes were needed to score damage on the vehicle, he managed to hit the driver of the rig. He blacked out. The vehicle swerved over the difficult terrain and smashed into the crate. Crew frantically tried to stop the bleeding and resuscitate the driver. To finish off the turn, Cosm turned his attention to Huntmaster. He moved to be in range of his twin bolt launchers and managed to get through Fox's shield and dealt 2 damage to him, pinning him. That was the ideal moment that Mail was waiting for. At the beginning of the following turn, he appeared behind the crate, ready to finish off the wounded enemy leader. But all those plans were swiftly destroyed by triple Tyramites that appeared shortly after. In this game, the spawn point for roaming horrors was the same as the mission crates themselves. Luckily, Spyrers won the initiative and Fox tried to run away from the Tyramites, trying to change their attention to the Nactgull. His desperate attempt to save himself turned out to be futile. After the first Tyramite charged and killed Mail, the second one managed to reach Tek Reaper's leader, and toxin wounds were enough to take him out too. The final Tyramite flew right in front of the Delaque leader, threatening to kill another high-value target. It was quickly dispatched by Cypher's shotgun. Both Ferryman teams exchanged shots on the other side of the map. Spyrers' skipper shot first. He missed his initial target, opponent skipper, but the stray shot from his plasma gun seriously wounded Rig Hand in the middle of the board. Return fire from Delaque, who jumped down from a temporarily immobilized vehicle, had the same effect, and Major Kurtz also fell down seriously injured. Xenorth, after gaining the mission point from the loot crate, jumped over to help his downed accomplice. Jakara advanced in close proximity to many of Delaque fighters, ready to take down one of them, despite pinning attempts from Psygeist's psychic powers and various guns. Theodore didn't waste any time and trampled over Hypnos and positioned himself right in the middle of the Delaque force. He was getting ready to either coup de grace Rig Hand, if he will continue to bleed, or charge and kill the enemy sniper. It turned out this was just a bait by shadowy Delaques. Thanks to the bait and switch tactic card, Uvash got another ready marker this turn, from one of the irrelevant fighters that have not yet activated. He moved to be in range of his double flechette pistols and fired at Jakara. One of the toxin rounds went through and an out-of-action result was rolled. But we quickly noticed that he was also equipped with a bio booster. Another injury dice was rolled and Theodore went down with a serious injury instead. But with no one else nearby, he was at no risk of being finished off this round. In the middle of the board, the feud between two Horus fighters was decided. Cosm shot again at a much weakened opponent, and this time out-of-action result was scored. After securing this kill, he climbed on top of the gang hideout in the vicinity of the mission crate. It must have attracted nearby roaming horrors. At the beginning of the next turn, a single brood scum spawned guarding it. Situation in the area around Jakara became much more interesting when both recovery rolls, single roll for Theodore and with assist for Abyssal Ferryman, were successful. Due to the versatile weapon range, it meant that Jakara could just get up and perform a fight action immediately. He chose Xenorth to be the target of the attack and seriously injured him. The Ferryman, that have just recovered, had lost it and ran away broken from the carnage. After surviving the retaliation shot from Avash, only getting one flesh wound, Jakara continued the rampage and charged the skipper, who was still positioned near the vehicle. This time an immediate out-of-action roll was made, however. Delaque custom rig was still immobilized, with the driver going in and out of consciousness from the blood loss. Duo of Delaques decided to approach the mission crate that was previously occupied by Spyrer leader. But Cypher couldn't score even a single hit on the Tyramites with his shotgun. Michaelash helped him and removed one of them with an auto pistol, but the next turn could provide fatal for one of them if the priority was lost. Righand passed the rally test at the end of the turn, but when he turned around he could see how badly his friend's injuries were. Zexanorth bled out and a multiple injuries roll was made, and in total the Delaque specialist acquired following defects: partially deafened, enfeebled and head injury. Not only that, attracted by the smell of downed fighters' blood, 3 Tyramites spawned at the beginning of the next turn. He survived a charge of the first one, but the second one managed to take him out of action. Cosm continued to loot the casket on the ramparts of the gang hideout. Spyrer's custom rig tried to stop him, but a hit from its grenade launcher was dodged, thanks to the shooting at Shadow's tactic. Surprising reinforcement for the Horus came in the form of the Malstrain Gene Stealer. He spawned at the back of the vehicle. His charge proved quite successful, scoring a catastrophic hit to the body and destroying the problematic weapon. Both gangs, after bottling, started moving to the side of the map much less occupied by the roaming horrors. The driver of the Delaque's rig finally managed to stop his bleeding and came back to his senses. He wisely decided, however, that the situation was too dire and failed his nerve test shortly after that. Jakara, who wasted a couple of turns trying to destroy the vehicle, was left stranded. New group of Tyramites slowed his retreat towards the last 2 friendly models on the board. After an unsuccessful attempt at killing the Gene Stealer, he was finally taken out by Champion Avash. That left only the vehicle and the Ferryman on the Spyrer side. Righand spent the whole game in one position, trying his best in scoring mission points. When he finally went over to threaten 2 Delaque gangers near one of the mission crates, leader Cosm decided to take matters into his own hands. He slowly got down from the vantage point and started approaching him through the difficult terrain. On the opposite side of the gang hideout, Avash went on an impressive culling streak. On the way to support both fighters, he had to remove a lot of spawning horrors. In total during his walk there he killed 6 Tyramites, 1 Broodscum, and even managed to finish off the Malstrain Gene Stealer. When Cosm finally reached a position to be able to shoot at the Righand, his aim failed him. He only scored a single wound and failed his nerve check at the end of the turn and ran away. But the hero Righand followed suit and decided it was finally time to retreat too. As he was the last fighter of the Spyrers on the table, the mission concluded. With 15 mission points, Delaques managed to narrowly outscore Spyrers, who got 13 points. Victory for the will of the Old One. According to our campaign rules, since it was the 3rd game of the cycle for Delaques, their territory did not generate any credits. They got 30 credits from the fixer on Uvash. He also got chosen as the MVP of the Delaques, stopping Jakara and killing many horrors, who could easily overwhelm his gang otherwise. Cypher at the very end managed to get brought down by one of the Tyramites with a critical injury, but Rogue Doc saved him. Fortunately, he and Zexanorth will be ready for the next fight, since they will be able to recover during the downtime. Spyrers managed to score 1 terror and 2 exploration points even when losing, by scoring 4 or more mission points. Jakara, who single-handedly cleared the whole flank of Delaques, got the nod for the MVP. This concludes the first cycle of the campaign. The first phase followed the campaign rules of checking exploration points gained across all gangs during the cycle, and we easily passed the threshold needed to finish the phase. This means that gangs can have some brief respite in the downtime, finally being able to recruit fighters and have access to their gang's equipment list. Next battle, this time in Cycle 2, will be between 2 Malstrain corrupted gangs of the campaign, Enforcers and Esches. See you next time.